Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and well today's Boxing Day evening. I have got rid of my guests for the evening. I've poured myself a nice glass of port. I've got Attic Attack loaded up on the Specky, which I'll be playing in a bit. And earlier today I had to go down into the cellar to get some provisions for the guests that I had around, and I put my hand on this thing. I've had this many years. I cleared out the remnants of a radio collector who had passed away and left a lot of old radio gear to the daughter, who really didn't know what to do with it, and between me and a few other people, we managed to find homes for most of the radios that she'd been left with. And I bought a few radios off her, and right at the very end there was a few radios left over that no one really wanted in a big cardboard box. And she just said, "Do you want to take this lot? I don't want anything for them. It's either you take them or I just take them to the tip." And most of it was absolute junk that really was just only suitable for spares. But in amongst that lot was this here. And what we've got here is a Sears Silvertone AM tube radio. And the reason I say tube radio is this is actually an American set. So how it's ended up over here in the UK, I'm not quite sure. I believe it dates either from the very late 1940s or possibly the early 1950s. And it's quite unusual. It's tiny. That's the first thing. I mean, this isn't my port glass, if you see next to it there. It really is very small. I mean, my hand, I don't have huge hands for a fella, and you know, that really is how tiny it is. It is a very small little tube radio. It only covers the AM medium wave band, as most radios of this type in America did. They didn't use long wave for broadcast transmissions in America. So all the AM radios are really just like medium wave radios. I believe it's a TRF set rather than a super het set, which basically is very simple. I've never actually tried powering this thing up. It's literally, I got it back and it's probably been in my cellar for well over 10 years. It's been in there for a long time. So what I thought we'd do this evening, seeing I've like I said, I've got a few spare hours now, is we'll see what's with this set, whether we can actually perhaps get it to play or not. And one thing that's really I'm curious is how safe these sets are. Now, it is a metal cabinet, and it is a US 2-pin 2-prong plug, which, I mean, they're non-polarised. These, I believe some of the later US plugs are polarised. They have one of these is thicker than the other one, so they can only go in the socket one way around, but this isn't. It's probably had work done on it in the past, because if we look there, it's got UK blue and brown colour codes, which they didn't use in America. I think most things like this just came with a standard twin cable, which nothing was colour coded on it. And I believe on 3-core cables in America they use green, black and white, with black being the live. I think that's right. I mean, if I've got any US viewers and you can confirm that, I'd appreciate it, but I believe that's how it's done in America. So it's been worked on in the past, possibly by the fellow that owned it before I did. Like I said, well, or at least the dad of the girl that I bought these off. So let's have a quick look in the back of it, and that's the first thing we notice is there's no back, and I don't believe there ever was. There's absolutely nowhere here to fix a back on it. It's just that's the back of the radio, so you can literally just reach into the back of it, and bear in mind you have got potential of what, 115 volts. Once it's rectified, perhaps even, you know, getting up to 150, 170 volts high tension on this, and you can literally just stick your hand right into the back of it. obviously made before health and safety was a huge concern. One of the things that makes me believe this is a TRF radio rather than a super het. One thing is it's got just a basic throw-out wire aerial, and generally cheap radios, that's what they did rather than having frame aerials. So it's just got a little throw-out wire aerial. I presume that's original. And if we look inside here, we've not got any tuning cans. We've got a tuning coil up there, and usually on a TRF set you just have one tuning coil. It's a detector coil and an aerial coupling coil on one little coil. You don't have an IF frequency and an intermediate and everything like that you do on a super het set. So let's I think what we'll do is we'll get this out of the case, and we may, if ever all looks reasonably safe, we may have a go at seeing if we can power this thing up and see what it does. I do have a 110 volt supply. I have this. This is ancient. This is an old radio spares auto transformer. So you put 240 volts, 230 volts in there, and it gives you between 110, 120 volts out there. It is an auto transformer. It's not isolating, so it's not a safety device. This, it just literally drops the UK mains voltage down to the 110, 115 volts that this thing would be expecting. But I'm not just going to just plug it in. I think we'll, because someone has worked on this in the past and we don't know what they've done. They could have, well, I don't think they've done anything to make it run on 230 volts because it's still got an American plug on it. But I said we'll open this thing up and we'll see what we find inside it. So let's get something we can unscrew this with. Let's have a look what we've got actually. Well, we've got a screw missing. We've got we need a nut spinner, I think, for these. Let's see what we've got in here. I think we should have something in here that will get them out. Let's have a look at that one. A bit smaller than that, I think. Let's have a look here. Does that fit? No, a little bit bigger than that one. What's the betting we don't have a single one of these that's going to fit? So look at that one. Nope. Just about. I think we'll get away with that one. Yeah, I mean these are metric, and I'm pretty sure with this being a US set, these will be imperial. It would only have really been sets made in Europe at this time, which would have probably been metric. But we can get them out. Oh, so there's one at the bottom seems to be missing anyway. So let's get them out. And let's see if we can get the chassis out and have a look what we've got here. Let's pull the knob off. Yeah, they do just pull off. And there we go. There's plenty of cobwebs and muck and rubbish in there, and the cone doesn't look in. Yeah, the cone's in quite a bad state. If we look here, I mean, someone's repaired it in the past and that's failed again. It's very crusty. You can see where it's been glued in the past. So if we do want to do anything with this radio, I think we'll probably need a new speaker. I'm not up to reconing that, I don't think. I might be able to patch it. We'll see if it actually does anything, whether it works at all. Let's have a look underneath. And we can see this has had work done on it in the past. That is not original. We seem to have some electrolytics in tape there. They've been replaced in the past. That's a more modern capacitor down there. These are, what are they, 63 volt 10 UF, and they look like radio spares replacements, probably from the Sun brand. I'm not sure. That looks like a radio. Oh, it's a Pesley. A Pesley 0.33 UF. That's been replaced. We've still got one old wax paper capacitor up there, but if you look, it's got a resistor across it, so it's probably just tone control or something like that. A little bit of leakage in that wouldn't stop the radio actually working. Yeah, we can see it's had a new modern mains card fitted at some point. That goes to, I presume, the rectifier valve, and that goes to the switch up there. We've got another radio spares replacement capacitor. These are all probably actually leaky, to be honest, even though the replacement RS branded capacitors like that one, I mean, that is a probably 1960s, 1970s vintage. These are probably, that I'm not too worried about, but these, that I'm not too worried about. Them polyprobe caps are usually fairly solid. I don't think it's in anywhere that would cause a major issue. Them two will probably need replacing. That's a much more modern orange dip capacitor. That will be absolutely fine. But I think what we'll do is we'll plug this thing in, and we'll gingerly turn it on, and we'll see if we get any life out of it, and we will possibly take it from there. Let's put it on the bench. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the knob back on it. So when I switch this thing on, I will only be using one hand, and I will only be touching the plastic parts of the radio, purely because I don't honestly know what isolation is used on this radio. I'm not that familiar with US construction techniques for these radios. So I'm pretty sure it's a TRF set though. I can't see an intermediate coil on it anywhere. Let's see what valves we've got. We have got, I mean, the valves I don't really recognise that much either. They're not the same as what I would expect in a UK set from this vintage. Let's whittle that out, see if I can see what. That's a 12 SA7. Right, so we've got one 12 SA7 there. What else have we got? This is a 35Z5. Now I'm pretty sure that's a rectifier valve. I'm pretty sure that's a 35 volt half wave rectifier valve. I will possibly double check that at a later date. Let's see about the last two valves. This one we have, that's a 50L6, that's 50 volts, and I think that's probably audio output valve. I say I'm not 100% sure because I'm not 100% familiar with US valve markings, but from what I remember, the numbers at the front are basically filament voltage, and then it's whatever the valve is. And now L, I'm pretty sure, like 6L6, things like that, EL34, that's more of a UK branding, but I'm pretty sure that's an output valve. That leaves one last valve in here. I should really be calling these tubes with it being a US set rather than a British set, but because I am British, it is hard to remember. And that is, I haven't a clue. It doesn't seem to have a code on it, unfortunately. I think the code's probably worn off that. 12, it's got a 12 marked on it. 1250, I think it might be there. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, we've got, I presume that's going to be like an RF amplifier valve. It's quite unusual to have this number of valves actually in a TRF circuit, so it must have a little bit of extra gain. So it's not. So what basically we'll have is we'll have a detector. We'll have a valve amplifying that detected signal into a basically we've got a detector valve. We will have a little RF amplifier valve to an AF amplifier valve feeding into the output valve, and obviously a rectifier valve to give us our DC to run the whole thing. So yeah, let's try powering this thing up and see exactly what it does. Now I should really use like a what's known as a dim bulb, which is a current limiting device, but I haven't got it round here. and quite frankly I've done a lot of work with vintage valve radio gear. I'm confident enough just to plug this thing in. Now I've seen the circuit, now I've seen what we've got there, I'm quite confident just to plug this thing in and see whether we can get any life out of it at all. So we've got our mains input. Let's plug the chassis in. We will then switch on my auto transformer to give us our it'll probably be about 115, 120 volts, and then we will switch on and we will see if we get any life out of it. I am up in the attic here. Basically reception in my area is not brilliant, but hopefully up in the attic I've got a bit of wire strung out here. Let's just perhaps string a little bit more of this wire out. Perhaps I'll just run a little bit of this wire across my workshop, see if give it a fighting chance of perhaps getting a signal off it. I do actually have a long wire aerial strung down the garden, but I have no way of accessing. That's for some of my very old radios. I have some TRF radios in the living room that date from the 1920s, and the only way of picking a signal up on them is basically a huge long wire aerial that goes right down the garden. But that should do for now, seeing if we can get anything off this little radio here. So I will switch the mains power on. So that's energised my auto transformer, and we will switch on and see what happens. Now we may have smoke, but all we've had happen so far is the tube filaments have lit. Now let's see if we get any audio or anything out of it.
That was about Billy Joe
Wow.
Saunders
that.
against David Lemieux. That was flawless, absolutely flawless. This fight wasn't flawless. This fight was made because of its... Say what you like, but it's the wrong side of the wire. Lewis has got 9.
Amazing, like that.
Just in the one.
That does seem to work.
There because that was a poor dog. His girlfriend just...
It's actually quite sensitive. It's actually a lot more sensitive than I was expecting. It definitely needs a new speaker. I can't turn it up past anything without it distorting, and that's purely down to the fact that the speaker's completely shot. But that is actually picking up quite a few stations. Let's see what else we can get. Obviously, this being TRF, there's no automatic gain control or anything on it, so you have to basically adjust both the tuning and the volume. But it's definitely a lot more sensitive than I was expecting.
Genuine 50-50.
We've got quite a few stations there.
Who've got very similar.
Nothing much down this end of the band, which is pretty par of the course around here. May have a go a bit of DXing when it's very late at night, see what I can pull up at that side of the band, but yeah.
What we hope will be a showdown for all 4 heavyweight.
It certainly picks in all the local AM stations in this area. So interesting. I wasn't expecting it to work quite that well. What I may do with this then is I'll have to find a new speaker for it, and I'll probably just do that, to be honest. I'll probably put a new speaker in it and clean the case up, because the case is pretty manky. So it's not really a radio for everyday use, this, but it would be, seeing it works like that, and if I can clean the case up, I think I will definitely bring it out of the cellar, and it can go on one of my display shelves in my office, and I may actually take the little auto transformer down there as well and set that up in my office, so it can have a play every now and again. So yeah, I thought I'm going to leave it there for now. Just thought you might find that interesting on this day. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.